the Week 7 totals you have to bet. Welcome, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and degenerates. It's Mitch here with my favorite over-unders for Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. Before I get started, Gronk, spike the like button, show your love, it's free. And don't forget to subscribe for all of my best bets every week of the NFL season. Let me know in the comment section below whether you agree or disagree with my picks. And let me know your picks in the comments. Let's go. Let's kick it off. I like a lot of unders this week. And I want to kick it off with an under in London. That's right. The Los Angeles Rams, the Jacksonville Jags, under 44.5 is our first pick. Fundamentally, these defenses have outperformed these offenses this season. The Jags are 7th in points allowed. The Rams are 3rd. They're both top 6 in EPA allowed, 4th and 6th. The offenses, 12th and 14th. So the defenses are the stronger units in this game. Both offensive play calling head coaches, so you would think different, right? Sean McVay, Liam Cohen, but they both know each other pretty well, which does typically lead to more of a defensive battle if both offenses are structured the same. We'll throw that out there. But I like the matchup for the Rams pass rush against Jacksonville's offensive line. And on the flip side, I like the Jags to be able to slow down a Rams offense without their biggest weapon, Puka Nacua. And I want to start there. Without Puka Nacua, the Rams are just a different offense. Yes, they have Devontae Adams, but the rapport between Adams and Stafford hasn't quite been fantastic. They're still kind of getting their feet wet. So I want them to prove it to me that they really have great chemistry, right? Puka Nacua, this guy does everything for the Rams. He catches the ball over the middle in traffic on 3rd down after 3rd down after 3rd down. Stafford will chuck it up to him in double coverage, triple coverage. He'll come down with it somehow on 3rd and long. He's a drive starter. He's a chain mover. They hand him the ball on 4th downs. He's a red zone presence. Like, Puka Nacua does it all. There is probably no more valuable wide receiver in football. Just look at how he's been playing this season. Like, taking over games, continuously moving the chains. And without him, I don't know how good these Rams weapons really are. Tutu Atwell can run and he can stretch the field. Whittington is a fine little hybrid chess piece kind of player, but he's not even a great proper receiver. They don't have that Demarcus Robinson element any longer this season. They have a couple serviceable tight ends, but the rookie hasn't really shown much, and then Higbee is just whatever. The offensive line is still missing their right tackle, Rob Havenstein, although the backup has performed well. But that could be the side where Josh Hines-Allen does tee off. I will say that. Like, he might be able to get some pressure against a backup right tackle on Matthew Stafford, who needs that time, right, to have these developing plays. And without his number one target, without that guy that he constantly looks to on 3rd down, the guy that they scheme up and try to get open constantly, and they throw screens and he gets cheap yards after catch, like, Sean McVay is going to have to pivot his offense. The run game for the Rams has been okay, but the Jags' run defense is one of the best in the NFL, so I don't expect a ton of success on the ground or a ton of balance. I still feel like the offensive success for the Rams is going to have to come through the air because Jacksonville has allowed a lot of passing yards this year, but they don't allow a lot of points, right? 7th in points allowed. They're also, like I said, top 6 in EPA, and they're also, both of these defenses are top 3 in takeaways. Jacksonville's actually 1st in takeaways this season, so maybe you could call that luck, but honestly, I think that's just a contribution from the system, the scheming, and then also the pass rush, and the ball hawks in the secondary. I think that the Jags are still a defense that without Puka Nacua to feast on one-on-ones. I don't really see how the Rams are taking advantage of many other matchups, even without Devin Lloyd in the middle of this defense. I still trust this Jags unit to be able to slow down the run, get a little bit of pressure on Stafford, and make enough stops for this game to go under. On the flip side, I really like the Rams' pass rush against Trevor Lawrence and this offensive line. The Rams do have some incredible talents up front, including Kobe Turner, who I think is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in football, and Jared Verse, who can take over a game single-handedly. Now, the Jags will probably have Robert Hainsey, their center back. That's a pretty big deal. But we saw this unit last week give up 7 sacks. Trevor Lawrence just all season has not been very good. And I don't trust Trevor Lawrence to be able to constantly move the ball against a heavy zone coverage defense. Lawrence just doesn't have a brain. He doesn't process fast enough. He doesn't pick apart zones constantly. He's too inaccurate to be consistent enough to move the ball through the air. And the Rams have been a good run defense for a majority of the season. They did struggle a little bit against Derrick Henry, but that's a unique matchup with a lot of size and a lot of power. I don't know if the Jags quite offer that same ability to be able to just slam the ball down your throat with size and just power that the Ravens have. So I like the under here. I think both defenses, again, right, outperforming the offenses. I think this game, if it's 24-20, that's still an under, and that feels like an accurate score here. I'm not really sure who's going to win the game, so I'm fading the Rams offense that's coming off a 17-point outing against the Ravens defense, which has been putrid all year, and I'm fading the Jags offense after a putrid outing against a beat-up Seahawks defense where they allowed 7 sacks. So right now, I just like the state of both defenses a lot more, especially on Jacksonville's side. Greg Newsome will have a little bit more time to learn this defense and hopefully not giving up big plays in this game like he did to the Seahawks. So let's go under 44.5 in London. Next, Philadelphia at Minnesota, under 44. Fundamentals. This is Vic Fangio against Carson Wentz, and this is Brian Flores against a putrid and broken Philadelphia offense. Pretty simple. The Eagles are also coming out really after their worst defensive performance of the season, and a lot of that was due to the injuries. Quinyon Mitchell got hurt in the middle of the game. Jalen Carter didn't play, and you could clearly tell that Jalen Carter was missed because the pass rush was non-existent against the Giants. And then with Quinyon Mitchell out, the Eagles just have very terrible secondary depth. Like, they can't cover a soul when that guy's not on the field. I kind of feel like the Eagles are going to bounce back a bit in terms of their defense here. Again, it's Carson Wentz. Like, how good is this guy really? The Vikings' run game is fine. It's okay. It's average. Their offense really hasn't impressed me all year. Like, I haven't been super impressed outside of Justin Jefferson. And if Mitchell is healthy, I feel like he could shadow Jefferson and hold him to a modest outing. Probably not stop him, but I don't think he's going to go nuclear. At the same time, I kind of just think, like, I'm going to trust these two defensive coordinators against two mediocre to bad offenses. On the Vikings side of things, they obviously have the home field advantage where they have the noise. They play much better defensively because offensive lines have to communicate. The quarterback has to communicate. When you're thinking about Brian Flores against the Eagles, it's like, what does Jalen Hurts struggle against? Well, cover 2. They play cover 2 more than anybody in the league. What does he struggle against? Zone blitz. Well, there's no team that zone blitzes more than Brian Flores' Vikings. And sure, the Eagles might be able to run the ball against the Vikings' weakness, their run defense. But the Eagles have not been able to run the ball all year at a consistent rate. And they have not been finding explosive runs from Saquon Barkley. So as long as the Vikings, who get Blake Cashman back at linebacker to help them stop the run, don't give up explosives to Saquon, I think this could be a really rough day for Jalen Hurts because he is not the smartest quarterback. They don't have the biggest, most expansive offense in terms of the plays that they can use to expose this defense. I feel like Hurts is going to be under duress. He takes a lot of sacks. He might throw the ball into coverage a couple times. And I just don't see this as a good matchup for Philly's offense. I don't see this as a good matchup for Jalen Hurts. And I don't like how Jalen Hurts is playing. I don't think he's playing very well. I don't think that Carson Wentz is going to be able to put up enough points here. So a broken Eagles offense with a bad offensive coordinator taking on the best pass defense in football, according to EPA, in their home building, and arguably the most creative defensive coordinator against arguably the simplest offense in the league. I kind of feel like Flores is going to find a way to shut them down. And on the other side, it's Carson Wentz against one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Jalen Carter back, Quinyon back. They have their linebackers. I think they can get enough pressure against this mediocre offensive line of the Vikings. So under 44, I think this is a defensive struggle, a defensive battle. Not sure who will come out on top, but I think the Vikings will hang in this game. And I think in order for them to do that, they're going to have to play some strong defense. So I like the under 44. Next, the under 40.5. New York Giants, Denver Broncos. Again, another game where both defenses are simply better than the offenses. The Giants' defense is an intriguing unit where their defense has played pretty well against everyone except for Dak and Dallas. So they allowed 17 last week to the Eagles, which is pretty good. They allowed 18 against Herbert and the Chargers at home. They allowed only 22 to the Kansas City Chiefs and only 21 to Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. They did allow 26 on the road at New Orleans, but there were 5 turnovers by the Giants in that game, which totally expanded the score. Meanwhile, the Broncos have arguably the best defense in football and are at home in this game against a rookie quarterback with very little at wide receiver. Now, the Giants certainly surprised me in terms of their ability to move the ball against the Eagles, but I didn't quite understand how bad the Eagles secondary was, especially when Quinyon went down. That completely killed their ability to cover. And they couldn't get any pressure or contain Jackson Dart without Jalen Carter. So the injuries, I wasn't quite taking, account for that, even though I didn't, really think that that was going to be a best bet. I did definitely pick the under in that game on Thursday night, but a lot went into that game going over, right? And then, the Giants defense did their part, but the Eagles defense fell apart in an epic way. So I don't see the Broncos doing that. I will say that. So I look at this and I say both teams' avenue for success offensively is by running the ball. Cam Scatteraboo and Jackson Dart running the ball or being athletic in some way, shape, or form is the way that they can move the ball against Denver. They're not going to be able to drop back and throw. Denver has the NFL's pass rush that's leading the league in sacks by a significant margin. Their edge rushers are extremely athletic, Nick Bonito being the star of the bunch, and they can contain Jackson Dart in a way that the Eagles' front seven couldn't. I'd also say that there will be pressure on Jackson in a way that I don't think he's seen in his NFL career. Like, his loss came against New Orleans in New Orleans. This is a much more difficult defense and a much more hostile environment in Denver than it is in New Orleans at this point right now with the current teams and the current regimes and the current status of these two teams and defenses. So this is a really tough challenge for a rookie quarterback to go against a creative coordinator in Vance Joseph, an aggressive coordinator in Vance Joseph, a very good secondary led by the defensive player of the year who can shut down any weapon that he so chooses in Pat Surtain, and then a vicious front four that's going to have him under constant duress. I also don't think the Giants will be able to run the ball all that well. The Jets weren't able to do it with a mobile quarterback, and I don't really think that the Giants will either. But I will say, if they do, okay, well, that just runs the clock. And both teams, I think, are going to have to run the ball here. The Giants have an awesome pass rush, and Bo Nix has been very scattershot against pressure this year. His inaccuracies, his inability to read the field, and I kind of feel like the Giants, they like to play more man this season than past seasons, and that's kind of the way to go against Denver because nobody really separates down the field for this Broncos receiving core. They don't have a lot of great route runners, and I do really believe that the Giants' corners can stick with them. Like, Cortland Sutton is a good receiver, but he's not a route runner. He's not a separator. He wins because of his ability to catch in traffic and his ability to be bigger than the corner that he's, being covered by and just making plays down the field. But Bo Nix, I don't like how he's playing. I don't think either offense is particularly good. You look at both defenses, and yes, they struggle more against the run than the pass, which means, okay, both teams are going to commit to the ground game. The Giants are 30th against the run. That means Sean Payton's going to try to run the ball. Well, if the team that's favored by 7 here is trying to run the ball and kill the clock and manage the clock, then that kind of leads to an under. At the same time, both offenses are terrible on early downs. 28th and 23rd. 28th for the Giants, 23rd for the Broncos. When you're terrible on early downs, what does that mean? Against 2 of the best pass rush units in football, it means you're in 2nd and long. It means you're in 3rd and long. And that means, okay, Nick Bonito and Zach Allen are getting after you. That means Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter and Brian Burns are getting after you. So I kind of think that these pass rushes are going to have their say. I kind of think that these 2 teams are going to try to run the ball to not a lot of success. And I kind of think that a team in Denver who's favored here to win by more than 7 or 7 plus, they only scored 13 against the Jets, a Jets defense that allowed 27 or more to every other opponent they've played. The Broncos offense is simply not very good, and neither will be a rookie quarterback in Denver. So I like the under 40.5. I don't think both these teams score 20 points. Give me the under 40.5. Next, the Panthers at the Jets. Let's just fade the Jets when it comes to scoring points. Give me the under 41.5. This is an interesting matchup for both defenses. I'm not convinced that either defense is great, but their weaknesses are both in the passing game. Their strengths are both in the running game. And that's a good matchup for these opposing offenses. Carolina has been a great rushing team on offense the last couple of weeks, right? Rico Dowdle went for 180, and then he went for 200 against Dallas and Miami. But Dallas and Miami are 2 of the bottom 4 defenses in football. The Jets are not a good defense, but when it comes to run defense, they've been much better. Carolina and the Jets are both top 5 in rush defense success rate this season, right? And they're actually 2nd and 3rd as overall defenses in success rate allowed, which is interesting. So as overall defenses, they do allow a decent amount of EPA or points, which is not ideal for our over-under, but typically that tends to kind of even out. Both defenses, from an average play perspective, have been very successful defensively. They've just allowed too many explosives through the passing game. And when you look at these 2 opponents, right, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, both quarterbacks are struggling. 26th for Bryce Young in EPA, 29th for Justin Fields. They're 2 of the bottom quarterbacks in the league. So, like I said, Carolina and the Jets, both top 5 success rate run defenses. Carolina's actually 1st in the league. The Jets don't have Garrett Wilson, which means they can't throw the ball. They have no receivers. Their receivers are Josh Reynolds off the street and Alan Lazard. Come on. I don't think they're going to have much success. Justin Fields takes sacks like nobody's business, and the Panthers are going to be selling out to stop the run. They've been very good at stopping the run. They held Javonte Williams down last week, a Javonte Williams that was going nuclear game after game after game after game. I don't see how Justin Fields and Breece Hall get this thing going, and if that's the case, they're not going to be able to throw. Even with the Panthers pass rush being suspect, I feel like the secondary of the Panthers is going to be able to smother these wide receivers, J.C. Horn leading the way. I kind of just don't think the Jets can do it through the air. I completely fade Justin Fields. I just don't think he can do it. I just think he sucks. And then on the other side, Tetairoa McMillan will probably be limited by Sauce Gardner in terms of his impact. And the Panthers are not great against man coverage because they don't have great weapons, right? Jalen Coker could be back. That might help a little bit, but I don't know. The Jets, I think, will be able to do a better job against the run than Dallas or Miami, force Bryce Young into more awkward positions to throw the ball. And it's not like Carolina's an explosive passing team, so they can't truly take advantage of the Jets in terms of that downfield passing element. They're more of a dink and dunk, an underneath type of team. And that's going to take a lot of time to get down the field and score, even if they do move the ball. So I lean towards Carolina winning this game, but I like the under. I think both these offenses will struggle because of the unique fact that both these defenses are very strong against the run, and that's pretty much the only thing that these offenses can do at a reliable rate. If you even look at Carolina's offense the last 2 weeks, it's not like Bryce Young's lighting the skies on fire with 300 yards. He has around like 190 to 200 yards per game. It's not like a crazy passing offense. So I like the under 42, under 41.5 for Jets and Panthers. Slow down the run, baby. And then our fifth and final pick, I did want to give you one over for this video, and it's the obvious. Give me the over Washington and Dallas, 54.5. I mean, both these defenses are just putrid. End of story. And both the offenses are good. Dallas's is especially phenomenal. I would call it excellent. Dallas, actually, believe it or not, this is a very high total, 54.5. They have gone over 54.5 points 4 out of their 6 games. And they could have easily went over more if not for the Chicago game where they lost CeeDee Lamb in the middle of the game and it kind of slowed down their offense. They threw a pick at the 1 yard line. Like, that game could have easily went over 54.5. So it's nearly 5 out of 6 games that have gone over this number. Dallas at this point is just an over team. You just bet them every week to go over. Washington, meanwhile, has a good offense, and Cliff is an incredibly good coordinator. Debo, I do believe, will play. Terry McLaurin is out again, but they've been missing him for quite some time. The Commanders could have scored 30 plus against the Bears if not for some mistakes, an interception by Jaden, a couple fumbles, muffed plays. Like, they look pretty good when running the ball. Dallas is going to have problems with that. Jaden's legs, and then Bill with the football in his hands. Dallas struggles to tackle in open space. Washington loves to screen the football to their playmakers. Zach Ertz will probably have a ton of success on third down, finding the avenues in the middle of the field. I'm sure Cliff will scheme up some big plays in this game for Jaden. Jaden's going to have time to throw. I kind of feel like Washington should be able to do what they want on the ground, through the air. And Washington's a really tough offense to stop when they do have their balance, because it feels like they're super good on fourth downs. They get you in like these 3rd and 3s, and it's just really hard to stop them because they're such a good scheme, and then Jaden can use his legs, and it's just really difficult. And then on the other side, like, Dak he's just unbelievable right now, and he gets CeeDee Lamb back against the Commanders' defense that can't stop the run that well. Javonte Williams should be able to go off like DeAndre Swift last week. And then you've got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens working against a man coverage heavy defense. I mean, that's a nightmare for Dan Quinn. They don't have the corners to match up with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. And if it's zone, Dak's going to be able to process it before the snap and pick his spot. So either way, I think the Commanders are kind of screwed over on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they'll be able to get enough pressure in this game. I don't think they can match up with those receivers. And I don't think they can properly stop the run either. So I think that the Cowboys are going to score 30 plus for sure. I think the Commanders can match them. I think this is 60 plus points in this game. 54.5 might be too low. This game feels like a 34-31. Like, this game's going to be 60, 65 points. Like, this is going to have a lot of points here. Even last year, guys, they scored 60 in a game between Washington and Dallas. November 24th last season, Dak Prescott played in that game, I believe. 60 points were scored. Dallas actually swept the Commanders last year, believe it or not, but 60 points were scored last year in a game between the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys. And this year, the defenses are much, much worse, right? No Micah Parsons. Even Washington's defense is probably worse than last year. Their linebackers are so slow. Like, they can't cover. Jake Ferguson's going to go crazy. And the Dallas defense is historically bad. Like, they're 32nd in EPA, 32nd in success rate, 32nd against the pass. They're absolutely atrocious. So I like the over 54.5. Dak and Jaden in a dome. Give me the over here. Those are my over-under picks for week number 7. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, spike the like button. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel for more best bets every week of the NFL season. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.